We are live and on the record. Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. All persons having anything to do before the Honorable, the Justices of the Massachusetts Appeals Court, now sitting at diverse locations within and for the Commonwealth. Draw near and give your attention, and you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Court is open.
Good morning, Mr. Perry, Attorney Azar. Nice to see both of you.
Good morning.
Single case for argument this morning. It is number 2021 J0278, Economos versus Perry. Each side gets 15 minutes, although you need not use all of your time if you don't want it. Mr. Perry, I know it's difficult being a pro se litigant and appearing before a court and not having the legal training that an attorney has. And so you're going to go first, as you are the appellant here, and that is you're appealing the judgment. And the question before us today is whether the appeal bond should be kept as it is or changed. And I gather there's also some use and occupancy in the order, and we'll talk about that perhaps as well. But why don't we, assuming you're comfortable, Mr. Perry, begin with you, and you take your time and tell me what you have to tell me.
All right. Well, as far as the appeal bond goes, there's some things that I really don't understand. For one of them mainly was the judge was the same judge that was hearing the cases. So I basically had to go in front of the judge and say that he, didn't follow the law. So I don't know how that was possible. Also, there's an ongoing Board of Health case. I submitted some photos. Did you receive those?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
The photos show present day, the violations. They're 6 months older than that. I filed the Board of Health case in December, shortly after I made my a payment of rent in good faith. It basically comes down to, was the law followed? And I believe it was not. One, jurisdiction. I was denied any type of discovery, jury trials. All of my motions were just, ignored. Criminality was alleged upon myself, and I showed evidence supporting the opposite. It was not looked at and still used against my brother, which there just seems to be a huge bias going on. As far as jurisdiction goes, was I ever given full disclosure? I am an American and I stand under public law. A gift was conferred on me to be the unauthorized representative of the defendant. And I don't recall ever giving my power of attorney away to anybody.
Okay, so I've read your filings and some of what you have to say doesn't exactly square with the law that is applicable here. I can just say this. The first step with an appeal bond is always going before the very judge who has ruled against you and making the case that there is at least an appealable issue. That is something that an appellate court has substance that an appellate court can look at. And it is true that that very same judge does have to assess whether there's an argument the other way. And judges do that all the time. And then depending what they conclude, in this case, the judge concluded that there was not a meritorious issue, meaning even a substantial issue, not that you would necessarily win, but not even a substantial issue. And then you come to the single justice and make your case, that's me, make your case here. So that's procedurally, that's quite normal, not quite normal, it is normal, that's what happens. Can I ask you a few questions?
Yes.
Okay, are you still in the unit
Yes.
Okay. And what is your position about whether, let's start with, well, I think I understand your position is that you have complied with the agreement for dismissal that underlies all of this coming out of the original summary process complaint. Am I correct about that?
Yes, as far as the case itself goes, there's been many errors. One simple one is this case began with a 14-day notice in November of 2019. Now, I had a court date scheduled for January 10th. When I went to this court date, I had already paid November's rent, December's rent. And when I went to the court case, I owed nothing but that month in January, which it was only the 10th of January, and I had the money on me at that time.
And you paid it, as I understand it, from the agreement for judgment. Shows
Yes. So I paid that, and that's also another issue is that contract. But you know, the issue at hand there is that 14-day notice should have been gone away.
And
I already paid 2 months.
Instead, you wound up with this agreement for judgment, and then I gather there was some dispute about whether you had complied with that or not. But your position, as I understand it, is that that original agreement for judgment shouldn't have been entered. The case simply should have been dismissed. Am I correct that that's your position?
Yeah, that's the very beginning of the complaint. That's correct. I should have never been put any legal paperwork in front of me by somebody who's I believe is not allowed to give legal advice. The hearing officer, are they allowed to give legal advice?
I think it's a mediator, but I have to look through all the papers. I'm not totally sure. I don't think it's a hearing officer. So the next question I have is, the court first said that you had complied with that agreement for judgment and then reversed itself.
Yes.
Do you, and I'll ask Attorney Azar as well, what did the judge have before him or her when they first said that you had complied?
May I answer, Your Honor?
No, it's not your turn, but I'll get to you.
When I complied, I just simply explained to her that I paid him what I owed him for the 6 months of time. Did that include some lawn mowing? Or yes, that's what I was trying to explain to the judge. For the last 3 years, I've been cutting the grass outside, not only at this apartment, but my next door neighbor's apartment as well, because the people that were doing it had some sick members in their family or something, so they weren't coming around, and I've had the grass at waist high levels.
And who told you that that would be worth $100 a month? Was that Dawn in the office, or?
Yes. Dawn is the only one in this case that has any firsthand knowledge about anything. And that's also been an issue because in the lower court, I was trying to have them call Dawn in because she's the only one that I've dealt with. I've been here for 7 years. I have Steve Economos on record in the last court hearing saying he's only met me once in the last 2 months. So he even admitted it, but this was all, which means that everything that he's been saying in court is hearsay because he's never met me. He doesn't know anything.
Well, it's a very tricky situation because you're not represented by counsel. There are ways to call witnesses into court, and I can't tell right now. And you know, I'm a judge of the appeals court, not of the trial court that this case has been in. So I can't tell procedurally what steps were or weren't or needed to be followed. But I do understand your argument. I've read, as I hope is clear, I've read your papers, and I understand that you say you have this arrangement with Dawn, and whether, I don't know, well, I'll ask Attorney Azar also when it gets to be his turn about all of this to see what their position is about all of this. I gather that since August of 2020, you have not been paying rent. Is that correct?
Yes, August, after I paid off the contract, I've been trying to get the photos that I showed you the damage of. I've been trying to get that situation corrected since 2019. So I started withholding my rent in August.
You say
when I ended up getting, I actually called because it started getting to be a lot of money. So I actually called to make a payment. And when I called to make that payment, that's how I found out this execution was even happening. Because I had a court date on October 30th or 31st that I didn't know nothing about. So it didn't end up being there and the execution was granted.
Now you've been withholding rent
since August.
Do you have that money? Like, when you say withholding, have you put it aside or you just haven't been paying it?
No, yes, it's put aside. I put it aside. I called to try to make a payment before that court date. They wouldn't accept the money.
Okay.
When the case got dismissed, I went down and tried again because it was dismissed. So I was like, let me go pay a month's rent. They accepted it in December. Now that right there should have been case dismissed because that waives your right.
That's 1 month's rent that you paid in December.
Yes, that's
So
also
I'm asking about August, September, October, all of those. Is that money put aside somewhere?
Yes, I just said that. Yes.
Okay. Now the idea behind the bond is to pay the back rent as a condition of continuing on with your appeal. Are you able to do that?
I am able to do that. However, I don't believe that should be the right sum of money.
Okay, that I understand, but that's because you think it is not worth the full rent because of the condition.
Damages in the open Board of Health case that is ongoing right now, which they sent me a bunch of paperwork saying that, I was perfectly in my right to withhold rent.
All right, now outside of the court that said pay the full, whatever it is, $7,600, I don't remember the exact numbers, pay that full amount. Aside from that, has any court or Board of Health or anybody told you an amount that they think the apartment is worth or an amount that you are allowed to withhold? Do you have any document like that?
Yes, actually, I don't think it says a specific amount, but I believe it does give a schedule with the law, and I believe I might have submitted it to you guys with the Board of Health paperwork.
I'll have to look. Is it your impression that Attorney Azar has a copy of that too?
Yes, he has. I sent him a copy. Everything that I've sent you guys a copy of, I've also sent him a copy of. And I believe Board of Health should have sent them.
His head and will ask the Board of Health. Presumably, the landlord's name is on the Board of Health case or documents. The landlord is participating in that Board of Health proceeding, or no? Is it just you, or is there someone on the other side who shows up?
The Board of Health has taken him to court, which according to the paperwork, I should have been getting. I should have been getting those dates, and so I could appear in court. But I haven't received nothing from them. When I called them, they said that they were actively pursuing it in court, and that the last court date that they had was March 24th.
But you have no documents about that.
I don't have documents on the court case. I have the complaint and everything from what needed to be fixed, his fines and penalties, how many days he has to fix them, and some background information.
You also say that you never got anything about an execution on the eviction, on the levy on the execution. I'm not sure what the right phrase is here, but you're saying you didn't get notice of that?
I didn't get notice. I didn't get notice of the hearing, which was put in as a default on October 30th or 31st. And that resulted in an automatic them issuing the execution. Now,
Okay.
it just so happened around that time, I made the phone call to Dawn, and she's the one that told me that there was an execution going out. And that's when I rushed down to the courthouse like November 3rd or something and put in a lot of paperwork.
All right.
And, tried to start navigating my way through what had happened. I didn't even know what had happened.
And I take it, although I guess I'm not sure, and you only have a minute left, you want to stay in the apartment, have it fixed, and continue paying rent. Is that right or no?
Yes, yes. I feel like I shouldn't have to. I haven't committed no injury to anybody. I'm the only one being injured here. What's going on here? I've been here 7 years. I've always paid my rent. When things need to get fixed, they need to get fixed. Now, if he doesn't want to come and fix them, I can fix things myself. I've already done plenty of work here that has been taken off of my rent in the past. I don't understand why now. I have my suspicions. I feel like this has all been retaliation because, I'm doing the right thing. I call the right people, want to get things fixed. I reported to Dawn that the floor was broken outside, and 3 months later, it's all been ignored and 2 people fell through the concrete floor.
All right. Your time has expired. I think I understand. Is there anything else you want to tell me that you think I don't get here?
Yes, that the apartment's it's in disrepair, and it's definitely not worth $600 a month. And honestly, I shouldn't be paying anything. And I believe the paperwork says that I should be most likely in a hotel room right now, being
I'm going to take a look at what you've submitted. I've already looked at it, obviously, but I'm going to look with some care at that Board of Health material. I very much appreciate, I do know how difficult it is being a non-lawyer and trying to navigate this. And I know that it's your home as well. So I appreciate your taking the time to try to get all these things together and get them to the court. And I will turn now to Attorney Azar and hear from him. Attorney Azar.
Well, Your Honor, our position is that there's been no error of law with regard to the assessment of the appeal bond, Your Honor. Judge Michaud took into account how much rent, back rent was owed at the time, and it was determined. Actually, I believe the hearing was held open in order to get the assessment because Mr. Economos was not present at that time. We did have a continuance, I believe, the same day. Mr. Economos appeared and indicated that $7,600 was owed in back rent at the time, and the judge assessed that. Now even more rent is owed because I believe that assessment was in May.
All right, can we start at the very outset of this?
Yes, Your Honor.
And obviously, this has been going on for over a year. It's unlikely that I'm going to be able to resolve this dispute between the landlord and the tenant, although I like to resolve disputes if I can. I gather that do you disagree that in January of 2020, the defendant came current by giving that $600 at the January 10th hearing? Was that current, or was there a further amount?
He was never current, Your Honor, and we did enter an agreement for judgment with regard to that he would make a payment and then remain current going forward.
When he made that payment, when I read that judgment, it says that after the payment, the amount due was $0. Is that correct? So he had paid.
I believe so, Your Honor. I believe, but then he was to remain current for
I understand that, but my question starts with that, which is, once he was current, why wasn't the underlying summary process action dismissed? That is, why was he asked to enter an agreement for judgment if he was current?
Your Honor, I think if I don't have the agreement for judgment in front of me, but that being said, I don't know if it was a judgment amount entered at that point.
Yeah.
I don't know, but he wasn't current at the time that we made the agreement. He was to make a payment, then he would.
He did that day though, and it was only the 10th of January. Not that I'm saying, I don't know, maybe it's 4 days later. I don't know what the grace period is or whatever, but I feel like this whole thing has spiraled in a way that's unfortunate.
But part of the agreement for judgment, Your Honor, was that he was to remain current with the multi-use and occupancy going forward, and he never did. And
Now,
we had hearing after hearing on that,
So
as
can
far
I
as that's
ask you
concerned.
this? So at first, a judge said he was current and dismissed the action. Do you know why that happened?
Was
Right.
never dis-
There was-
Well, I know why that happened, Your Honor, because Mr. Economos was not present. I was there. I did not have a rent ledger in front of me.
Mhm.
Mr. Economos filed pro se after that for relief of judgment as far as that's concerned, and did appear. I appeared with him, and we cut to the chase, and there was monies owed, Your Honor, a lot of monies owed.
Can I ask you this? Are you aware of, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Perry, I'm not going to be able to, we don't have rebuttal here, but let me keep going with Attorney Azar and we'll see where we are. Can I ask you this? Are you aware of anything about any rent reductions due to cutting the grass, any agreements made with your agent if this person, Dawn, is here? Do you know who Dawn is? Is that a person?
Absolutely, Your Honor. She absolutely. She was there when the initial agreement for judgment was entered into back in January or December of 2019 or 2020.
And
she was there, and she's appeared on two Zoom hearings. Let's put it that way.
so she has testified under oath, or she's?
She has, Your Honor, and she indicated that there was no such side agreement with regard to rent reduction or anything of that sort. With regard to the $600 or $100 for cutting the grass or anything of that sort. What else? Mr. Perry did indicate that back in October 31st that he wasn't aware that the execution had issued because he wasn't made aware of the date. That's not the representation that he made to the court. He dialed in, he couldn't get in, and things of that sort. And that's the representation that he made to the court at that time.
Do we have transcripts yet of any of this stuff, any of these hearings?
I don't have transcripts, Your Honor, but that's the representation he made to the court at that time, that he was trying to dial in, he couldn't dial in, was having difficulties. And I think it might be in one of his pleadings, Your Honor, with regard to why he didn't show up, and that's why he needed another hearing for the execution issue. But this case, as you know, Your Honor, has gone ad nauseum. I mean, there was no courage on his part. Actually, there was some misrepresentation made by Mr. Perry to the court with regard to a rent receipt. And Judge Michaud came down in our favor based upon the misrepresentation.
This is about the 2017, the 7 or something on the 27th?
Correct, Your Honor. There was a misrepresentation.
Well, the judge found, the judge did find Mr. Perry not credible. I know he contests who altered what, but let me ask you this. He says there's something before the Board of Health about his unit. Do you know about that?
We've received nothing with regard to the Board of Health, Your Honor. And actually, with regard to Mr. Perry's filings, I don't receive them, Your Honor. I have to go on mass courts and see what's going on with regard to that.
Because
I don't
of the problem with service, you mean, or what do you mean you don't receive?
I haven't received anything from him, as far as that's concerned. That being said, I haven't received anything from the Board of Health. I don't believe my client has either, Your Honor, at this point.
Let me ask you this. You didn't file a motion for use and occupancy in this order. This was all in response to a motion to waive the appeal bond, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And has any court that you know of, or the board or anybody, looked at these photos that he has of the current condition of the apartment to assess use and occupancy? That is, where did the judge get the number from, or is it just the rent?
That's a use and occupancy that Mr. Perry has been paying historically. I would suggest to His Honor $600 for a unit, albeit maybe there's there might be some problems. I don't know, Your Honor.
I can't tell you what the, I mean, I'm.
No,
fair market value is
But
beyond money.
as far as market rents are concerned, they are skyrocketing, as His Honor knows,
Yeah,
in
but
Massachusetts.
if it's, look, obviously, if there are questions about habitability and so on, I can't, I
No,
don't, I'm not going to take evidence or, you know what I mean? I'm not saying that $600 wouldn't be an appropriate rent for the place if it was in appropriate shape. That's the, that's the rent as far as I can tell.
Yes.
I'm trying to think if I have any other questions for you. Do you have more to tell me?
Well, Your Honor, it's just been a long case. I mean, it's been back and forth. And my client should prevail in this matter, Your Honor. I mean, we proved Mr. Perry was not truthful in some instances as far as his representations that were made to the court. That being said, Your Honor, the appeal bond, he's indicating that he has the money set aside. And here we are, to post the bond, to post the monies for the appeal bond. He says he has the money. Let him pay the monies, Your Honor. They were due by, I believe, June 15th, and he hasn't done it.
Is that not stayed pending this appeal? I actually don't know how that works.
I don't know the answer to that question. I'm sorry, Your Honor, but that wasn't stayed. He hasn't paid it. He's supposed to pay the use and occupancy for July 1st also of $600. Obviously, we're not there yet, but he hasn't paid the $7,600 and probably will not pay the $600 at this point, Your Honor. But our position is that there's been no error of the law. The judge was well within his rights to.
Although I think my standard review is de novo here. I think I have to figure out whether there is an appealable issue. I don't remember what the phrase is, meritorious issue for appeal or something like that. And I have to, I think that, and indigency, of course. Let me think if I have any other questions for you. And what is the status of the eviction piece of this?
Well, we haven't, I don't believe we've levied. What happened, Your Honor, also, we tried to levy at one time, but Mr. Perry's brother was in the unit, and we did a temporary restraining order, and the judge ruled that he's not a tenant. He's not a tenant of the unit as far as that's concerned. So he's supposed to be out of there. I don't know if he's out of there at this point or what have you. So it's been a long, drawn-out battle as far as that's concerned. We're just, my client is interested in getting his unit back at this point, and that's where we stand at this point.
Do you think that if the back rent was paid and the place were in adequate shape, your client would continue to rent to Mr. Perry?
If he cured what the back rent, Your Honor, as far as that's concerned, we're just hearing about the Board of Health complaints at this point.
Yeah.
But
No,
my client would address any issues with regard to that. I'm sure he would.
all right.
I don't know.
I
I don't know
will
where the relationship is at this point. I think it's deteriorated,
I would think.
being the fact that, this Mr. Economos has had to expend some monies with regard to this also. This process.
I will look at I don't fully understand the relationship between this and this Board of Health thing. I hear that you don't know about it. I don't know, obviously, if your client has been served with anything. I will look at whatever documents are in the appendix. There are some from the Board of Health, but I have to confess to having not looked with great care at those yet. I've looked obviously at what Mr. Perry has written and at the orders below. All right. If you have nothing else for me, I will take this under advisement. I take it that you will not be levying while it's pending before me. I'm going to get something out in the next couple of days. I'm hopeful at the latest. I think that's really all that's before us. You're on mute, Mr. Perry, and our rules are ordinarily that there is no rebuttal, but if you want to turn on your microphone and I see you're distressed, if you want to tell me something for a moment, I'll hear from you, and I'll hear from you again, Attorney Azar, if there's something to respond to.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Perry?
Yes, I have a few things to say about what has gone on. First, to the original contract that was signed, I knew something was not right going forward because I was, I didn't owe any money then. I already paid off that 14-day notice in November and December. I paid rent and I only owed January, yet I was still in court. So when I signed that contract, I signed it under duress and protest.
No, I understand that you've made that argument. I understand that you made that argument.
Yes, well, that document has been whited out, sir.
Well, I don't know about that, but and can I ask you a question? He says, Attorney Azar says he hasn't received anything from the Board of Health.
Yes, that's another thing I would like to address. I received through this whole time, I received one. We're supposed to trade our information back and forth, correct?
Sure.
I always send them copies of everything, but I've only received one time from their side.
And when you say you send it, do you send it to Attorney Azar?
He sent me the evidence, and it came from his email, amazar@yahoo.com. So all these filings that I've done, they're on e-file. So they're all sent right back to that same Yahoo that he sent me evidence to.
I see, but you haven't mailed him anything by first class mail?
Yes, I've mailed him in the beginning before I started e-filing everything. I was first class mailing everything. So okay. Yes, he definitely has a copy of the Board of Health. It's been brought up in many hearings in the past. Dawn never appeared in any of my hearings. She did appear for my brother's hearing, but never during one of mine. I was trying to get her into one of mine, and the judge said that he wouldn't summons her.
All right.
As far as the grass cutting goes, where I paid off, those 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
When she ended up reversing her decision was based on the fact that the labor should have been put into the contract.
Objection, Your Honor.
I don't.
I don't want to get
all of this, sir. There's transcripts to all of this.
Okay,
so she said that was the reason why she reversed her judgment, was because the $300 in labor should have been put into the contract.
Right. I will obviously look at all of the papers that we have below and that have been e-filed. So thank you, Mr. Perry. Do you have Attorney Azar? I should let you get to go last. So.
Well, Your Honor, I don't receive things from Mr. Perry as far as that's concerned, any of his pleadings and what have you. I see them online. Not that I'm blindsided. I sort of know that things are coming down the line, so I look. Okay. But that being said, I've received no Board of Health report. I haven't seen it. I saw the pictures. I haven't seen the Board of Health report.
All right. I appreciate that, and I accept your representation. I don't make, and you should know, Mr. Perry, I don't make findings of fact based on this. This isn't testimony that I'm hearing from you all. Nothing is going to be determined based on a representation that either of you has made here. I'm looking at the legal questions that are before me. And as I told Attorney Azar and you, I will take this under advisement, and I will try to issue something in the next few days. And thank you both very much for your time. And I know, particularly Mr. Perry, I know this is your home and it's an emotional matter, and these are difficult matters. And this is one of the reasons why it's obviously it's expensive, but why having a lawyer represent one is good, because they're able to be your advocate, and in this case you have to be your own. So I appreciate that. The case is submitted. Thank you both very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.